Hello and welcome to this channel. This video is the second in a series on the art of ancient Mesopotamia and will look at the art of the Akkadians. This civilization came after the ancient Sumerians, the topic of my last video. If you want to see how art in this region develops, please consider watching that video as well. In 2334 BCE, the city-states that made up ancient Sumeria were defeated by Sargon of Akkad, who would establish the Akkadian Empire. This empire is considered to be among one of the first true empires in the world. Rule was centered around the city of Akkad, the site of which is yet to be found, but many believe it was near Babylon in modern-day Iraq. The city-state model of governance found in ancient Sumer was replaced by a system of royal power embodied by one king. Sargon's grandson, Naram-Sin, would extend this idea to be ruler of the whole earth, essentially similar to a living god. This civilization had significant influence across regions in Mesopotamia, the Levant, modern-day Iran, and Anatolia. Military conquest would expand the empire, and agriculture, taxes, and trade, including with the Indus Valley, supported the economy. As an empire, it was, however, subject to internal revolts, dynastic instability, and foreign invasions, and along with the impact from climatic changes, it would eventually also collapse. Although the Akkadians brought with them a Semitic language different to the language spoken in ancient Sumer, they adopted the cuneiform characters that the Sumerians used. Under this empire, Semitic Akkadian and Sumerian speakers were united. The Semitic Akkadian language would become more widely used language, but Sumerian remained important for literary and religious purposes. These languages would be used on sculptural and architectural inscriptions, clay tablets, and cylinder seals. Artwork from this civilization focused on naturalistic details carved onto stone stelae and statues. An important feature of Akkadian art is realistic and anatomically correct depictions of the human body. A trait that is common in Akkadian portraiture is the hair being combed forward in radiating curls. This stylistic feature differs from Sumerian art and can be used to date artworks that do not have inscriptions or other identifying markers, such as the archaeological context. This naturalism is also found in metal statues made from alloyed copper, an early form of bronze. These statues were crafted using a hollow cast lost wax method, a technique dating to this period. This method involved shaping the sculptural form out of beeswax to create the initial form. Larger sculptural pieces may have had an inner clay core surrounded by the sculpted wax. Thin hollow wax rods are attached to this wax mold in discrete areas to serve as channels for the molten metal. Where the wax rods are located, a clay cup may have been attached to hold the metal during casting. The wax mold is left to harden, and it is then covered with a mix of fine clay, water, and charcoal in multiple layers. This allows for finer details to be preserved when the clay casing is added next, as well as add protections to the form. Once encased in clay, the work is left until completely dry. It is then heated to melt the wax. During casting, the mold is placed into a furnace, and molten metal is poured into it. This is left to cool completely and harden. The clay cast is broken off and the resulting bronze sculpture is cleaned off any baked-on clay or excess metal. An example of this casting technique can be seen with a number of different portrait heads of leaders of the Akkadian Empire. The new power system that the Akkadians introduced initiated a shift in art to focus on royal portraiture and less on deities as seen in Sumerian art. One such example is a bronze portrait head of an Akkadian ruler found at Nineveh, believed to be Sargon of Akkad, the first Mesopotamian ruler to unite Sumer and other neighboring territories into one unified civilization. This portrait head has both natural and stylized facial features, and was part of a life-size sculpture, the oldest known such example of monumental hollow-cast sculpture to date. Notable skill is shown with casting, polishing, and engraving details. Naturalism and stylization are balanced in the facial features and textures of the skin and hair, with the overlapping curls of the braided hair stylized into formalized patterns. The rest of the figure is lost, and the head shows signs of deliberate damage, possibly resulting from the sack of Nineveh by the Medes in 612 BCE. The defacement includes gouging out of the eyes, which were inlaid with precious and semi-precious stones. In addition, the ears are slashed and the lower part of the beard is broken off. Despite this vandalism, the craftsmanship in the sculpture work still conveys the ideals of absolute monarchy, such as grandeur, dignity, authority, and humanity. The sculpture is now housed at the National Museum of Iraq in Baghdad. A second such royal portrait, believed to be of the second king of the Akkadian Empire, Ramesh I of Akkad, shows a bearded man whose hair is portrayed with elaborate braids and interwoven ribbons. This work is made from copper and is housed in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. It was scanned using a high-energy X-ray computed tomography technique to examine its internal structure. A three-dimensional view of the sculpture was produced, which revealed that the metal walls in the front of the image are 5 to 6 times the width of those at the back. This suggests that the artist would have had to address problems such as uneven solidification of the metal, as well as trapped gas bubbles while producing the cast. The internal structure also revealed 6 large core supports inserted to the wax during casting, which aided in holding the core in place. In comparison, the head of Sargon, the previous example discussed, is less complex with smaller pairs of core supports. It also has a more uniform wall thickness, suggesting the creator of this work may have had more experience with the sculpting technique. The copper portrait head of Ramesh I has other features that suggest the artisans were still in the process of refining their skills in casting large-scale sculptural pieces. This includes casting defects where a section is missing in the beard, and high porosity, in particular in the front of the head. The back of the head has a section that suggests repair work, where a casting defect required a second pouring of metal. Nonetheless, it is still a complex piece of work, and a deliberate line over the left ear revealed by the scan suggests that it may have been gilded. With relief sculpture, such as the victory stele of Naram Sin, Sargon's grandson, there is an emphasis on rounded form, and details are often incised with sharp lines. This stele or upright commemorative slab shows the victory of the king after a conquest. In contrast to the use of levels or register to create composition as found in Sumerian art, the composition is now unified. High relief is used to increase the significance of the event portrayed. Inscriptions pay honor to Naram Sin, as well as the previous king who first claimed the stele as a war prize. Naram Sin is shown leading his army uphill with fallen and defeated enemies in his wake. This king is taller than his soldiers and stands on the bodies of 2 defeated enemies. A horned helmet signifies his divinity, making this image a first to show a king as a god in Mesopotamian art. Stars shine from the heavens, further suggesting divinity. The use of erratic scale for the king, as well as the use of composite frontal and profile views, shows the artist adhering to older artistic conventions found in Sumerian art. The use of horizontal registers is gone, however, and instead a landscape setting for the figures has been created, placing them on successive tiers. The traditional horizontal format is maintained in an alabaster disc showing the daughter of King Sargon, Enheduanna. It is her image from the scene shown on the disc that I am doing a study of. Enheduanna was a poet and high priestess of the goddess Inanna and wrote a number of hymns in honor of her. She served as a high priestess to the moon god Nanna in the Sumerian city of but was later ousted from this position and forced into exile. She wrote about this event in a poem known as The Exaltation of Inanna, where she offers appeals to the goddess for aid, as well as thanks her for her help to reclaim this position. Enheduanna is regarded as the first named author to write in first person. She is also the first known author to claim authorship of her work by adding postscripts citing herself as the original compiler of the hymns. This disc was found in fragments by British archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley during excavations at in 1927. Inscriptions on the reverse identify her and credit her with erecting an altar to Mesopotamian lunar god Nanna in his temple. The round format of the disc is due to the dedication to the moon god. The front shows 4 figures approaching a 4-story ziggurat or stepped pyramid. Enheduanna is indicated by slightly increased scale and a headdress. Her right hand is raised in greeting and respect for the god. Other figures in the scene are 2 female attendants and a possible male priest carrying offerings. Cylinder seals were also used by the Akkadians, and these show a high degree of naturalism. 3 stylistic categories have been identified based on hero-animal contest scenes. However, other themes such as myth, religion, and daily life also occur, making this categorization a guideline only. In the first phase, known as Akkadian 1, artists create linear carvings of deities. Hero-animal combat is no longer portrayed using overlapping figures, rather figures become distributed in space. Focus is on increased naturalism and the details in figures, compared to a focus on overall design as seen in Sumerian cylinder seals. The second phase, Akkadian 2, sees a continued interest in naturalism and realism, with more accurate depiction of facial features, hair, muscle culture, and bone structure. This realism mirrors what occurs in large-scale stone carvings on royal monuments, a style referred to as classical Akkadian style. In the final phase, Akkadian 3, this classical Akkadian style reaches its peak. Imagery on the cylinder seals show a greater degree of volume and modeling, with deeper relief being used. More vigorous encounters are shown, whether between man and animals or with military scenes. In general, the art of the Akkadian Empire shows an increase in realism and naturalism in its subject matter, with a focus on sovereignty and royal rule reflecting the unification of the region into one centralized political entity. However, the Akkadian Empire would collapse due to a combination of internal unrest, the renewed rising power of city-states, and a drought stemming from what is known as the 4.2 kiloyear climate event. This was an aridification event that occurred 4,200 years ago, which led to crop failures, famine, and population displacement, weakening the power hold of the empire. Additional stresses, such as invasions by the Gutians towards the end of the 3rd millennium BCE, would eventually lead to the collapse of the political supremacy of the Akkadian Empire in this region. I'll continue with the changes in ancient Mesopotamian art and its varied political and social context in my next video. As always, thanks for watching and take care.